I was born 9 years after the end of World War II. And I grew up in a generation that was, with my parents who were fixated on that, what happened. And my father, at that time, the resolution in the minds of most Americans, and I think people around the world, is that there had been something wrong with the German people. That, the Germans had been particularly susceptible to this kind of demagoguery and to following a powerful leader and to industrializing cruelty and murder. And my father always differed with that. My father said, this is not a German problem. This can happen to all of us. We're all just inches away from barbarity. And the thing that keeps us safe in this country are the institutions of our democracy, our Constitution. It's not our nature. Our nature has to be restrained. And that comes through self-restraint, but it also, the beauty of our country is that we devise these institutions that are designed to allow us to flourish, but at the same time, not to give us enough freedom to flourish, but also create enough order to keep us from collapsing into barbarity. So, one of the other things that my father talked about from when I was little, he would ask us this question: if you were the family and Anne Frank came to your door and asked you to hide her, would you be one of the people who hid her at risk your own life, or would you be one of the people who turned her in? And of course we would all say, well, of course we would hide Anne Frank and take the risk. But that's been something, kind of a lesson, a challenge that has always been near the forefront of my mind, that if a totalitarian system ever occurs in the United States, which my father thought was quite possible, he was conscious about how fragile democracy actually is, that would I be one of the ones who would resist the totalitarianism, or would I be one of the people who went along with it? Would I be one of the people who was at the train station in, Krakow or even Berlin, and saw people being shipped off to camps and just put my head down and pretend I didn't see it, because talking about it would be destructive to my career and maybe my freedom and even my life. That's been a challenge that my father gave to me and all of my brothers and sisters, and it's something that I've never forgotten.
A lot of us would like to believe we would resist in that situation, but the reality is most of us wouldn't. And that's a good thing to think about. That human nature is such that we're selfish, even when there's an atrocity going on all around us.
And we also, we have the capacity to deceive ourselves. And all of us tend to kind of judge ourselves by our intentions and our actions.
What have you learned about life from your father, Robert F. Kennedy?
First of all, I'll say this about my uncle, because, I'm going to apply that question to my uncle and my father. My uncle was asked when he first met Jackie Bouvier, who later became Jackie Kennedy. She was a reporter for a newspaper, and she had a kind of column where she'd do these kind of pithy interviews with both famous people and kind of man in the street interviews. And she was interviewing him, and she asked him what he believed his best quality was, his strongest virtue, and she thought that he would say courage, because he had been a war hero. He was the only president who, and this is when he was senator, by the way, who received the Purple Heart. And, he had a very kind of famous story of him as a hero in World War II. And then he had come home and he had written a book on moral courage among American politicians and won the Pulitzer Prize. That book profiles some courage, and which was a series of incidents where American political leaders made decisions to embrace principle, even though their careers were at stake and in most cases were destroyed by their choice. She thought he was going to say courage, but he didn't. He said curiosity. And I think, looking back at his life, that that it was true, and that was the quality that allowed him to put himself in the shoes of his adversaries. And he always said that if the only way that we're going to have peace is if we're able to put ourselves in the shoes of our adversaries, understand their behavior and their that context. And that's why he was able to, he was able to resist the intelligence apparatus and the military during the Bay of Pigs when they said, you've got to send in the Essex, the aircraft carrier. And he said no, even though he'd only been in 2 months in office. He was able to stand up to them because he was able to put himself in the shoes of both Castro and Khrushchev and understand there's got to be another solution to this. And then during the Cuban Missile Crisis, he was able to do it when the narrative was, okay, Khrushchev acted in a way as an aggressor to put missiles in our hemisphere. How dare he do that? And Jack and my father were able to say, well, wait a minute. He's doing that because we put missiles in Turkey and Italy that were right on, the Turkish ones right on the Russian border. And they then made a secret deal with Dobrynin, with Ambassador Dobrynin and, with Khrushchev, to remove the missiles in Turkey if he moved the Jupiter missiles from Turkey so long as Khrushchev removed them from Cuba. There were 13 men on the what they call the ENCON committee, which was the group of people who were deciding, what the action was, what they were going to do to end the Cuban Missile Crisis. And virtually, and of those men, 11 of them wanted to invade and wanted to bomb and invade. And it was Jack, and then later on my father and Bob McNamara, who were the only people who were with him. But because he was able to see the world from Khrushchev's point of view, he believed that there was another solution. And then he also had the moral courage. So my father, to get back to your question, famously said that moral courage is the most important quality, and it's more rare than courage on the football field or courage in battle than physical courage. It's much more difficult to come by, but it's the most important quality in a human being.